Welcome back, nerds. We're back, your resident nerds.
We
My
keep
name's
saying that.
Nikita.
We
What?
keep going on these little dips in
I know.
productivity.
Listen. This summer has been wild. I've been in the process of moving, but this right here, final setup. You will never see me leave this setup.
And then ironically,
This
the
is
next
it.
time they see me, I'm probably gonna be in a literally a new setup, and we're
That's
just
true. Now that I
stuck in
think
this
about it.
infinite loop of changing backgrounds. Uh,
Uh...
I'm Gino, by the way. I'm your resident weeb authority,
I'm Nikita, your local comic book nerd,
which is
and we're
interesting because we're
oh,
your
you're
resident
resident
nerds.
nerds. It's okay. We haven't
Hey.
done this in a minute. I mean, also, if my frame rates are terrible, I apologize. I just, again, completely new setup, still trying to get everything together, but hopefully by the next episode, things will be more clear.
We'll get it
Um,
figured out. It's all good.
yeah.
It'll happen.
Also, though, if you haven't kept up with us, follow us on our Instagram at Your Resident Nerd and our TikTok. We'll be posting a lot more there. Again, we took a little bit of a summer hiatus just to kind of get things in the groove of things and getting our studios and stuff set up. But we're back and we're here to do what, Gina? What just dropped over the
Well, today
weekend?
we're not even doing any weeb shit today. We're talking fully
No.
comic movies. We're going to be doing a short review, and by short review I mean a 30 to 40 minute long review of
Yeah,
The
yes.
Suicide Squad by James Gunn.
Short as we can get
director.
it.
Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about today. We'll be giving a short, quick review. We'll be talking a little bit more about the plot, maybe, or like maybe our favorite aspects that we like from the film, and then we're going to be talking about the reception this film has had over the past week, I would say.
Yeah.
And we'll
It's
end
been
it.
so
We'll end
everywhere.
it there. Yeah. We have some stories. We have some tweets we'd like to read off. We'd like to discuss what the fuck is happening because I'm really confused.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where the well let's jump into it. So first of all, our thoughts on the movie, people. And if you want to watch a movie, it's on HBO Max. You can also see it live in theaters. We watch it on HBO. Just me and Gino. Luckily our friend loaned us his account, which was thank you, Tart, one of our editors. Go check him out. Physics memes and jokes at
On
TikTok.
TikTok. There we go. Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually his handle, but yeah,
Stupid
no.
physics memes. That's what it is. Stupid physics memes.
But I mean, I'm sure. I think we both feel the same way, Gino. I love this movie.
I mean,
I thought it was
I've
one of the
seen
first
it-
good DC movies.
I've seen it twice now. I saw it not drunk, but I saw it tipsy because I was drinking when I saw it with Nikita the first time, and then literally last night I saw it again with some people who haven't seen it before, and I enjoyed it equally both times. So
did everyone you watch it with also enjoy it? I'm curious whether that's just
everyone. So it was. I guess this is the list of people who have seen it in our friend group. It was me, you, Justin's seen it. He loves it. He's another one of our editors.
Our main editor. Also, Video Game Docs. Check him out. His channel has been blowing up. So definitely check him out on TikTok and YouTube.
But everyone else, even in our Discord, who has seen it now, has enjoyed it. So, I mean, we've got that consensus. If nothing else, we've got that good. But I had a wonderful time with the movie. I laughed my ass off a lot, which was wonderful. I wasn't expecting to, but I mean, you can ask Nikita the first time. We were having a hoot and a holler, man. That shit was hilarious.
I loved it.
Yeah. I got hyped. I got emotional. I simped hard.
Yeah.
It was just a good film. Like I don't know what to say. Like you know, I'm gonna keep saying that I just had a good fucking time with it, and you know, I don't need it to be, I guess, the absolute mastery of cinema, but I still think it was a pretty well productioned movie.
Yeah. Before we get into other people's thoughts, because there are some notes I do want to say about that, but first, I guess I just want to go through like the movie a little bit, like reasons why I enjoyed it, and maybe some reason. Fuck me, this setup. I'm so sorry, fam. All right, it's okay. We got it. We fixed it. But other reasons why I enjoyed this setup or enjoyed this movie and why I may have disliked some things from this movie. Let me start with like I guess what I liked about it. The cast in general was phenomenal. A lot of the acting choices, the actors for the specific roles fit really well, like Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, like all of them amazing. It's also a unique cast that you don't really get to see. It's like C-D tier characters that you rarely see in comics. I mean, literally the only time I've seen Peacemaker was in the most recent Suicide Squad run. A lot of these I haven't heard of, and Gino knows I've been reading comics since like 2004.
I was going to say, there's nothing funnier than we're in the middle of the first viewing and me being like, Nikita, what's this guy's deal? And he's like, Gino, I have no fucking clue. I'm like,
I don't even know his name. I'm sorry. Like I literally didn't know most of these characters, and a lot of them have only just been brought up for the first time in like a decade in the most recent Suicide Squad run, probably to promote the movie, I'm assuming, which makes sense. But they're awesome characters, and the fact that we don't know them makes them a little more cool because you don't You're not expecting the same tropes as you do with like Superman, Batman, stuff like that. It's characters that like the director also kind of has free reign to play around with, and they did, and I love that. The comedy too. I didn't think the comedy was too much, because that's the issue with a lot of like, I feel like my issue with Marvel movies is the comedy kills every serious moment, and that's what I liked about this. Is like a lot of people are making the comparison it's to Guardians of the Galaxy of DC, which I disagree. I agree to a point where it's like, yeah, it's these niche characters you don't know, and they're pretty fun, but also serious and just like a badass like crew in general.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the only comparison you can really like make or connect it to. I don't think you can say it's a carbon copy, because the plots were completely different. The characters were all entirely different. I mean, you have to admit there's not a Gamora or a Star-Lord in this cast. Like, they're all really cool, and I thought they were all really funny too. I just thought it was a hilarious movie, and I didn't think there wasn't a moment where it got serious where they cut in with a joke to ruin the serious moment. That's the issue I have with Marvel movies and them being too like funny or comedy like now. And that's the issue even Guardians of the Galaxy had. But like James Gunn didn't do that with this. Like with Suicide Squad, you didn't feel like the comedy killed the action or killed the serious, impactful, sad moments. You still got all that, like a fair share of it, while just having a good laugh. So
James Gunn also like really implemented like comedy into the action really well. Not in every action scene that was in the movie, but there are certain scenes that you can definitely tell where he combined. I mean, you have the opening scene, and then you have the scene where they're trying to go get Rick Flag at one point in the movie, both which I thought were hilarious.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, are we in a spoiler section? Am I allowed to talk spoilers yet, or are we?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you guys can watch it online. You have our overall spoiler-free opinion of it.
Please
We're
watch
probably
it.
gonna go into spoilers.
Just
Yeah,
just go
definitely
see
watch
it.
it.
Like
Let us
was
know
a
your thoughts
wonderful
too
movie.
after you watch it. Like, hit us up on TikTok or Instagram. We'll definitely talk. We're always down to talk about these reviews and discuss them. But I'm curious to what our fans specifically think, whether we're just like on the one side or not. But yeah, I like just thought the comedy landed. The villains too were really cool. Like I love that the overall plot wasn't focused on Starro at first.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was more like toppling down the government, and then Starro just kind of became like what their next mission was. And even then, that like wasn't their original intention, to where like they weren't trying to stop Starro. Originally, like the government just kind of wanted Starro, or really the government just wanted them to erase files,
Yeah,
not even like go
they
after
just wanted
Starro.
like American inclusion to be out of it,
Yes,
and
yes.
removed.
And then they fall into the point where they have to fight Starro. And like I thought Starro was done so well. He's a Justice League villain, so I'm glad he's the first Justice League villain, actually. And so and there was a point where no one thought he would be in a movie, at least not for ages.
He
But
also
no, he
had like a
was.
really nice like motivation in regards to like him being like tortured for like 30 years essentially, and being like, yeah, like I'm about to take my rage out on this island, and like retribution for that. A lot better than I don't you could have gone like the classic like Starro route, where he's just like trying to take over, like he's just an alien parasite essentially. But like
Yeah.
I really like this idea of like, not only is he like has the parasitical like nature, but also is like he was really pissed on the way he was treated.
And because I mean, in the movie, he says like, "I just wanted to be left alone. Like, I just wanted to watch the stars. That's it." And that's a great motivation for me. I love that over classic like Starro villain. I just want to conquer stuff motivation. And even more recently, Starro has had like a good side in comics. I mean, in the last like 5 years, especially with Rebirth, he's played more of like an anti-hero, or even a hero at times. Like little mini Starro, Jaro, as he's called, has been like a
Jaro.
little Batman sidekick. So I'm glad they didn't go like full evil route, because that also leaves like kind of space for the future to see like if he does return, maybe he's not a bad guy, or maybe he's a tool used by the heroes. It's just more possibilities than like his original motivation. And maybe that's why some people have an issue with this character, but I loved Starro as a villain, and I loved how they dealt with him. I loved the entire fight sequence at the end in the mini island. There's just so much. The only thing I can or what were you gonna say?
Yeah,
Sorry.
what I was gonna say real quick is that in terms of like loving the characters and stuff like that, Elliot was one of the people who watched with us yesterday, and he popped in, I think 15 minutes late to the movie or something like that. And so his initial comment was that, even though he'd only been watching it for 5 or 10 minutes, he was like, wow, all of these characters, especially like the B team, that they are all like way more likable than the first movie. He's like, I'm grafting onto these people, and like I don't really know them that well, but he's like, I'm already kind of being like, wow, like I like these people, and like I feel an attachment towards them that that definitely didn't come in the first movie.
I don't know what it is, too, Gino. Fucking Bloodsport over Deadshot any day. I don't know
I
why.
know.
He's just a much cooler character. Maybe it's because maybe I'm just like jaded from Will Smith at this point. Being
I
like,
was talking with Justin about it, and Justin said that he wouldn't have minded seeing Will Smith return. And I have mixed feelings about it because on one hand, I don't think Deadshot was the right character for Will Smith. On the other hand,
I
I would
agree.
have been curious to see what he would have done if the writing had been better for him,
Yeah,
because you can't fully blame, like, if you have bad lines, you have bad lines. And as charismatic as Will Smith is, I mean, you can only do so much, right? Um, so it would have been interesting to see him. I understand where you're coming from. Idris Elba fucking killed
yes.
this role. Like he was excellent. He's a badass. He's funny.
Bloodsport's
Yeah,
just equipment, too, was really
I
unique and
know. Oh,
cool.
it was great. It was
I
great.
love the beef between him and Peacemaker, both of them trying to be like the most badass, like anything in his hand is a weapon kind of type
Yeah,
character.
God, that fucking the intro of both of them when Amanda Waller was literally describing Peacemaker as like the same thing, and I was like, oh my God, this is the same guy. And immediately Idris Elba goes, he's the same fucking person. I'm like, yes. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, bro, I'm like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, you did say that, and
Oh
then
my
immediately
God.
after that was Elba's line. And I just love their banter too, like where they're like, it doesn't matter, like I forget what the line specifically was, but basically like John Cena had basically said, well, as long as it's badass, like it doesn't matter. And Idris Elba was like, fuck, he's right.
The slow pan, he's like, he like doesn't want to admit it. That's what you get from the messaging there. He's like, fuck, he's right. And I'm like, oh, I love hearing Idris Elba speak, by the way. It's just like his voice, so a fucking one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I disliked about the movie. I think the only thing I disliked was kind of how quickly a lot of the characters were killed in the first round, and then
Gotcha.
like almost none of the cast was after that. And you still had some
Yep.
deaths later on, but it was like a pretty big gap. So I
there's a little bit of like immortality going on too. When what's his name? Blood. Is it Bloodlet or Bloodsport? Am I
Bloodsport.
okay? It is Bloodsport. Okay, good. Yeah, when Bloodsport fell down the building that initial time and he took that
Oh
first
yeah,
fall, I was like,
I remember me and you both thinking he's dead, right? He's dead.
There was that. There was like when all the soldiers were firing at him when he's like hanging off the building and like none of them hit him, and it's like, okay, like all right, there's a little bit of that going on, and I'm like, all right, it's fine. Like,
Yeah,
it's
like
a
plot
superhero
armor
movie.
level stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. So I think that was maybe my only problem with it. Other than that, I really don't have much like negative to say about this movie. I mean, I guess if you wanted to go into like, again, like, is this like a cinema masterpiece? Probably not. But in terms of like DC movies and in terms of like a cinema blockbuster for the summer, fucking exceptional. You will have a
I
good time
definitely
seeing
think it.
it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's what was needed for the DC universe. Like this is their one, I think, consistent piece that if they do a reboot, they should keep this from the old universe.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, the casting is phenomenal, and I hope they keep James Gunn as a director because it's a very James Gunn-esque movie too. That will be like my one other like slight dislike, but not even because I think it's good for the Suicide Squad, but you feel James Gunn's kind of influence over this movie. But like again, I think people are saying it's just like a cheesy, stupid comedy movie when it's not. Like those serious moments, like Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2's like moments and relationship building up throughout the film, that was really cool. Especially like his dynamic with his own daughter, and then her dynamic with his father. Harley and Rick Flag being like the only two original characters left after like Boomerang died, which Boomerang died quick.
Dude, that made me sad. I will say that was kind of a shame that they killed him off like
one of the
that.
OGs died quick. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, so no one is safe in this movie. Because I didn't expect Rick Flag to die. I really didn't.
Yeah, dude.
And the fact that Peacemaker is still alive, that one got me. But
he's he's getting an HBO Max show.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I
I'm
have
okay
mixed feelings about it. I don't know. We'll have to see how they tackle it.
I'm okay with that. I think
Okay.
Peacemaker's a cool enough character. Like like him and Bloodsport are two like the same type or archetype of character, but their motivations are completely different. And Peacemaker's, as you saw, was completely based on like I will do anything for this country, like a twisted Captain America or U.S. agent-esque character, which I really like. And him going up against Bloodsport, that final scene was so cool. But to touch up on like the seriousness of it, well, one, like the action there, again, no comedy ruined it at all. Literally just Bloodsport destroys his bullet, and he's like, I used a smaller bullet. Like, that's how I killed you, just as you said earlier, what you would do in the film.
It's a great
But
callback.
then,
It was wonderful.
yeah. And then Rick Flag's death, and him and Harley's relationship too. I love that because they're the only two OGs left. And you can tell, like, when Rick Flag comes to save Harley, and that hug, there's not a joke that
Yeah,
ruins it. Like, it's literally just Harley like, man, like, you're one of my only like last friends here. Like,
I'm so glad that they kept that out of the trailer, because like the original trailer, I think they notice her, and then she immediately like goes and introduces herself to like Bloodsport, and like I didn't see that hug coming where she hugged him, and it was actually really sweet. I was like, damn, I was like, okay, that's kind of incredible. And then, like, you know, him wanting to like go back and get her, like the Operation Jotunheim switching to Operation Harley because they had to go save her and everything. It was just like, I had a really good time with the movie in regards to like character motivations. People are trying to say that like the characters here are like stagnant, and I guess that's like an argument you could make, but I don't know, man. I don't know if they needed to like have these huge character arcs. It's more of like what the team is going through and like an adventure that they're having to deal with. It's a mission, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah,
I also loved King Shark. I think he was my favorite character.
King Shark, Sylvester Stallone did an excellent fucking job.
Yes.
I will say.
Every single time he came up, Gino's like, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like hilarious. I'm like, I can't believe they have because I don't remember. Sylvester Stallone's like up there in age now, right?
Yeah.
And like the fact that he is one of the huge comedy beats in this movie is insane. Yeah, the dude's 75 years old and he's playing King Shark.
Wow.
Like,
I didn't even realize how old he was. Holy
that's
crap.
what I'm saying. It's kind of incredible. I don't know. Like,
and he had his sad moments too, like when he's getting shot at and he like doesn't want to. I felt so bad. I was like, no, not my boy, not King Shark. And when his friends, oh my god, when the like little piranha jellyfish thing started attacking him, oh, I felt so bad.
I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay. I was like,
but yeah. Overall though, just my overall review of it. Great fun movie. The comedy doesn't kill the serious moments, unlike a Marvel film. It was definitely needed for a DC film. The serious moments are serious and not like too dark or brooding. And then it's lighthearted enough, and the cast and characters, their dynamics, relationships, and motivations are all superbly well done.
Yes,
that's like my quickie review for Suicide Squad.
I also one more time. I'm really glad that they're like trying to move like Harley Quinn to be like super independent of like the Joker. They're really trying to make her like her own. That scene where she shot the general was the funniest shit.
Yes.
The biggest turnaround. Like, oh my god, her whole speech about red flags. I was like, get it, Harley. I was like, girl boss. I was like, let's go. Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh my lord.
Also, I guess like now I kind of want to talk about its comparison to the first movie. Much better.
Can I read some of the tweets off real quick? Because one of them, a couple of them talk about like in comparison to the first one. So do you know who the Critical Drinker is?
Yeah.
So I'm personally not a big fan of him. We don't hold the same views and stuff like that. His fan base is kind of interesting, and so he went to go see the Suicide Squad, and so he tweeted about it, and he actually didn't have any major problems with it. He thought it was like a fine, fun film. But people's responses to it were like incredible. One War Chief Dino God says, I disagree. This was fucking worse than I can imagine, especially if you're a fan of the comics. All the characters were interchangeable, and the villain was, of course, the USA. To everyone who says Snyder's films are nihilistic, take note. This Suicide Squad movie was 100% nihilism.
Where was the nihilism?
How? Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you not know what that word means, man? Like, hold up, my head, bro.
Google define nihilism. I'm just let's see what the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. Where, sir, please explain your reasoning. Where did they reject, or where anywhere did they say life is meaningless? I'm pretty sure the whole point of this show is that they have bombs in their heads and they don't want to commit the like Suicide Squad level missions.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking, if it was nihilist, wouldn't they all just be like, fucking Amanda Waller, just kill us? It doesn't matter. It's fine.
It's like anti-nihilism. No, but yeah, also that comment. If you read the comics, first of all, as a comic book fan who has read all the Suicide Squad comics, probably in the last like 15 years, and then some of the ones from the 90s, I will be honest, I haven't read a lot of the earlier, like original iterations of the Suicide Squad. but I've kept up with modern Suicide Squad. And Gino knows this. I told him this story before we started recording. Someone gave me this exact same comment. I'm not gonna like be too specific because I can't blame the guy, but anyone who says if you read the comics, you would know, you're a toxic fan. I will say that now. Shut the fuck up. You probably don't read as many comics as you think. Because every comic fan I know, and I'm in a lot of like different comic book forums, group chats, and stuff like that. So that way we can all like keep up with the comics and discuss this. It's actually where I like have learned a lot about comic book history. Everyone loved this movie and said it was like a great depiction of the comics for them because but to go on with the story, I was working with this guy and I said, yeah, I love this. And he doesn't know that I've read comics. I don't talk to him that much. And I was like, man, I love the Suicide Squad movie. And he was like, no, it was trash. It was just like a comedy pile of shit. And that's it. And I was like, no, I enjoyed it. And I thought it had great moments. I thought the characters were done so well. And he was like, yeah, maybe if you read the comics. And I looked at him and I was like, I just read Robbie Thompson's most recent issue that came out Tuesday. I've kept up with every Squad comic and almost every comic in the last like decades and a half. Like I run a comic book podcast. Not to be that guy, but if you're gonna try to be that toxic fan and say, well, I've read the comics, I don't know. Okay, then back it up. Cause like other people that have probably read the comics will call you out on your shit. And I did. And I said, okay, what comic issue have you read? And he was like, oh, well, I mean, I read some of the ones back from 2010. Okay, so that's it. You haven't kept up with modern Suicide Squad beforehand. You probably knew 52, which was like the wackiest iteration of the Suicide Squad. Like, that's a fact. So I see all these fans like coming, or fans, quote unquote, saying like, if you read the comics, you just sound like dipshits that haven't read the comics. I'm sorry. Like, because most people that I know that have kept up with the last decade of Suicide Squad, like modern Suicide Squad, enjoyed the film and didn't think the take was at all far away from a comic book adaptation. I thought it was relatively close and maybe not 1-to-1 by any means, but I don't give a shit if it's 1-to-1. It's a cinematic universe. Every single cinematic version of a comic book character is very different from their comic book counterpart. So to say like, if you read the comics, no, you're just being an annoying nerd. Sorry.
We talked about this before we hopped onto the podcast, the call today, that comic books have this nice liberty to them that anybody can kind of pick up the characters and like work with them as a motif, essentially, like work with them in regards to like a kind of set of boundaries. But you know, different motivations can come about and different interpretations of the character can be created, and that's a wonderful thing for the movies because that means directors can kind of go like far and reaching and inclusive for what they want to make these characters. And speaking, we're talking about a bunch of characters here who don't have that much recognition, right? Like,
you have liberty.
I mean, you have lots of liberty. And I mean, I don't know, for a Batman story, like Batman's supposed to be like classic, doesn't kill anybody and solves problems, right? Like that is like an idea of like Batman. I don't know what that is for the Suicide Squad. Like they're just trying to survive, I guess, as
they literally just
guys.
Get sent on suicide missions as bad guys who are like slowly becoming more heroic or anti-hero-esque.
Which is what this film was. So
yes. So where did it stray from the comics? I'm just so curious. Was it because King Shark was a little more goofy than he is in the comics? Great, because otherwise he'd probably be such a boring fucking character if he was just a Hulk like beef monster. That's it. Like, that's just a fact.
I agree with you.
And now there are fans out there trying to say restore the Ayer cut. I was like, why? Snyder cut I understood because he had to leave his filming process for a major life event, and then the studio kind of completely butchered his film. Because I would say the Snyder cut was a lot better than the Whedon cut. I don't like the Snyder cut that much, but I do think it deserved to be released. Ayer, no, what, like there was nothing. Warner Bros. May have like screwed with some of his original direction and stuff like that. I get it, but he still got to make the product at the end of the day.
I personally think if we had an Ayer cut, it would be like almost as bad, if not potentially worse, only because of the fact that like I guess DC felt like they had to go out and hire an editing company, which if you don't know about the original Suicide Squad, the people who edited it were mainly known for editing like music videos and stuff like that. So like if Warner Brothers felt like they had to go out and like hire that, like I don't know. I don't think just because you give it back to the director for editing doesn't mean that like the film is gonna fix itself. the guy, I think he's been quoted for talking about the original Suicide Squad. Like his intention of it was to be like a 3 hour movie or something like that. And it's like that's just like not necessary, man. Like nobody
Not for the
wants that.
Suicide Squad either.
And
Like
yeah, trying
that's
to
what I'm
fit in there
saying.
like a whole like Harley Quinn Joker movie into the Suicide Squad. I'm like, just separate them, bro. Like you don't need all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like like I said earlier, the Ayer cut had no interruptions, and the reason the Snyder cut wanted to be released was because the Whedon cut was so bad.
Yeah.
The James Gunn directed movie is a million times better than the Ayer cut, in my opinion. Like I don't think it's needed.
And so speaking of this conversation, there's a Instagram account that I follow that I think I might unfollow after this atrocious take called marveldc.nerds. And this guy put in his caption after posting a picture of the Suicide Squad. He said, "To be honest, I don't understand what people love so much about this movie. I fell in love with the first one, but this one is just okay to me. Had fun watching it, but I don't understand the hype. Check." And I'm like, did you see the first movie? Like, what's the? I'm so confused.
And
man.
here's the thing: I didn't hate the first movie. I actually, a lot of my friends like were so disappointed in it. I had fun watching it. I didn't think it was great by any means. I still had fun, but I can say I not only had fun watching this new movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I actually thought it was like just a good movie. It wasn't one
I
that
was
you
sorely
had to like
disappointed by the
dumb your
first
brain
one. I'm
down.
not gonna lie. It
Yeah,
hurt me
you and
quite a
every
bit.
other comic book nerd too, which is why I'm blown away that there's like such a Twitter rage against James Gunn right now. And I think it's just James Gunn haters that have read maybe one or two comic book issues, because every other comic book nerd I know that have kept up with all the comics, again, is what I'm saying. Because I even like some of these comic book Instagram accounts you see only really read like maybe one or two issues a week of like the most popular series. I'm talking about like communities of nerds I know have read every single comic book issue in probably literally the last 10 years. Loved this movie. I don't think any of them really had a problem with it. Some of them said it might have been a little too like jokey at times, but otherwise they still enjoyed it, and a lot more than the first movie.
I've
So it's
also
crazy.
I've seen people on Twitter complain that the movie's not funny and stuff like that. And like I guess comedy is subjective to a certain point, but that it really it just sounds like you have a bad sense of humor at that point, man. Like there are so many good
I
jokes
thought
in
it was
this
funny as
movie.
fuck. King
Yeah.
Shark alone could have just like had me rolling on the ground. But then Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and all them. Oh my god.
When they tell him that he can't go with them to the club, to the bar, and he can't wear the disguise, and he goes, "Fuck!" I like hilarious, fucking excellent,
so
bro.
bad.
Like
a little kid throwing a tantrum.
oh my
Oh
god,
my
no,
god.
fucking yeah, like. It just makes me mad. There was another one, Sparehead 3. I agree with all your points, but my conclusion is that it was absolutely abysmal. Weak plot, appalling dialogue and script, uninspired acting, even from Cabaldi and Elba. And I'm most surprised we stayed until the end. It was like watching a drawn out car crash. Like, just how,
What?
I don't like what type of film are you expecting, man? Like, what do you,
It's Suicide Squad. What do you
yeah.
want it to be? Fucking Interstellar or something like
Yeah, that's
that?
what I'm
Like,
saying. Like, I don't understand like what type of movie they went into this like looking for, you know? And now I've also seen people like trashing on comic book movies and like saying that comic book movies are like abysmal and they're glad they're dying out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is not the movie to like die on that
no.
hill for. If you wanted to do for like Black Widow or something, okay, like all right, I kind of see where you're coming from, but like you're
Yeah.
choosing this movie to be like, comic book movies are so bad. Oh, terrible. James Gunn did such a shit job. These characters are unlovable and it wasn't funny and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, you're a fucking moron. I'm sorry. Like I usually try not to be rude about other people's opinions, but the amount of hate that this movie is getting is ridiculous. There are so many other worse films out there. You're trying to say that this one was bad, man? Like, come on.
Well, also,
Oh.
like the other thing is a lot of people are trying to use the justification that it had a bad opening weekend.
Mm.
Right. And I'm
Oh,
like,
well,
okay,
yeah,
one,
bruh.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, let's clear that up. First of all, several movies have had bad opening weekends and then have still done amazing in reviews, which this movie has done amazing in reviews. So it doesn't matter how much money I mean, yeah, how much money it makes is important, but at the end of the day, it depends on like the viewers that did watch it, did they enjoy it, which they did so far. The other thing is, one, COVID is ramping back up again to where most states are returning to their mask mandate. Like all my jobs, I have to wear a mask again. So we're right back to almost square one with COVID. And it released on HBO Max, which has shown that the movies on HBO Max have been doing incredibly well and have been siphoning views from movies. Even for Wonder Woman, that was the case. Wonder Woman did not have a high release at all. A big release for the COVID released movies themselves, but not by any means between all the DCEU and just comic book movies. And that's because it released on HBO Max, which people preferred to watch it on there. And it's free, unlike Black Widow, where you had to pay $30 to watch it on Disney Plus. So like more again,
thank God for HBO Max. Like legitimately, like I love you guys. If I could give you all kisses at the HBO studio, I would.
I fucking love you.
Unfortunately,
and Doom Patrol
it's
season 3 is coming out.
That is
yeah, that got announced too. Cool little news. But yeah, like COVID is unfortunately still rampantly here. Which is sad. We were kind of at the butt end of it, and now we're back to square one. But hopefully things get fixed, because movie theaters have already had to struggle through a lot, and they're still struggling through a lot.
Every go through movie a major struggle again. I was about to say that.
I know, because
over.
Especially now that we're like there's a potential lockdown in the way. I'm nervous for movie theaters. But overall, yeah, the Suicide Squad is going to suffer on its box office opening weekend because of it. But I still think I hope HBO Max releases the data, because I did for Snyder Cut and all that. Snyder Cut, poor showing on HBO Max. Wonder Woman, great showing. I bet Suicide Squad, great showing on HBO Max. I would put money on it. So I'm sure it makes up for whatever they lost out in the box office at that point.
Angry.
Yeah. I just all these like
me off, man.
Twitter and all these entitled high horse fans that want Chris Nolan level.
Yeah, I just again like that's I guess my thing is that, like, I just don't get it, because I'll keep saying it. This is just not the film to like die upon that hill, man.
No, like.
There are many other DC movies to clown on. I'm not gonna lie, but they did. I think they did a good job here. I think they finally got a pretty damn good one.
Yeah, Suicide Squad felt like Suicide Squad, and which Justice League did not. Simple as that. And like, I think people want another, Chris Nolan Batman Dark Knight trilogy type esque movie. As you said earlier, Gino, this is not it. Like, this isn't the cast to do it with. It's Suicide Squad. No, it's not. You shouldn't even be doing it with Justice League, which is what I feel like Snyder was trying to do. But certain characters like Batman, sure, definitely. But like for Suicide Squad, no, you got Harley Quinn on the team, and Captain Boomerang. How serious do you want it to get?
But Nikita, where was the Justice League when Starro appeared? Where
that's a good question, but also I guess it wasn't like national news at that point was the only thing. But my one, I will say my one complaint is why Amanda Waller, when she found out about Starro, didn't try to contact the Justice League.
Also, why she was like ready to kill the Suicide Squad. That also was kind of weird to say. She got really pissed, and I'm like, just like, if they're gonna die, they're gonna die. Like, why do you care? Like
you bombing them will
fail here.
I was gonna say you bombing them will literally do nothing but make the situation worse. Because if you didn't bomb them, they could maybe stop the threat, which is like in South America, clearly very close to fucking the United States of America. And you're saying you're doing all this to protect the nation. Okay, wouldn't you want them to stop this giant space alien monster before it gets to, the coast and starts taking over the entire fucking world, which it had the capability to do?
She threw some excuse in, like, it would be good for the US government if the island faced like political like diffusion or political like upheaval, and I'm like, that's a little bit worse than political upheaval. I think
this isn't political upheaval. This is alien parasite infecting the entire world.
The country just like gets wiped out, and then Starro just moves on to the next place. Like I'm a little confused that
it's like mutual destruction.
Yeah.
I know. Good Lord. The other thing, I guess my only like small complaint is also them not knowing that what's his name, the vermin type creature.
Weasel.
Weasel. That Weasel couldn't swim. I was like, really? No one fact checked this.
Listen, I just took that up that
funny as fuck.
I took that up that her department was just like not professional, and B was just not very good at their jobs. That was my interpretation of that, because they showed it was like when she was playing golf. And they were in the middle of like doing all this shit, and I was like, "Why are they playing? Like, what are they doing right now? Like, support them." And Nikita was like, "Oh, well, they've got like the jammer over the island." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." I'm like, "You're telling me these people don't have anything else to do right now? Like, they're just like
play mini golf in the office." I'm sure they'll figure it out.
So that was my interpretation: is that they were just the Task Force X is just like an ineffective thing, and they really are just trying to kill these people off. But I don't know, man. I was like, damn. I was like, support your people out here.
Oh
my gosh. Yeah.
God, but I at the end of the day, even with those tiny flaws, because really those aren't that big.
Those
a
are
deal.
just
They kind of
mini.
add
It's
to
not
it.
like it's not like
They
a
add
really,
to like
you
the
know.
comedy of the movie. Worst comes to worst. Like I fucking still love this movie. Like I had a blast. I would rewatch it again. You rewatch it again,
I
and you
did.
still enjoyed it the second time. Like
I was sober the second time. That's what I'm saying. Like I watched it tipsy once. I watched it sober once. I had a good time both times. So
yeah,
you
I
know,
think comic fans are on there, or I don't even think it's comic fans. I think comic fans, quote unquote, are on their high horses right now.
Cinema
I
nerds.
recommend you watch it. Let us know if you disagree with us, because at least like have a conversation with us. Because a lot of these people I feel like aren't willing to have a conversation. They're just willing to say something and not back it up. Have a conversation with us. We'll definitely
we'll
listen
interact
to you guys.
with you.
Yeah,
We'll talk
yeah.
about it.
Follow us on all of our social media. I think by now we should hopefully have our Patreon up too. So if you want to support the show, it would actually be incredibly helpful, because as you see, our setup is still a little scuffed, and there's some things that we could invest in. So if you want to financially support us, check out our Patreon, your resident nerds. You can find it on our Instagram Linktree, as well as we may or may not be starting to live stream this. I'm potentially going to start streaming, and that way put all the podcasts and shows on there. And I would love to do your resident nerd main show here, and a lot of bonus content that we put on Patreon. We live stream there first, so you could see it for free if you came on Twitch. But the live stream schedule will come out on Instagram hopefully by the end of this week. But we'll get that all ready for you guys. But I think that's it. Like, Gino, do you have any other like major things you want to say, or
go see the movie if you have a chance to?
Yeah.
If you're not afraid to go see it
HBO
in the
Max
theaters,
or
then
theaters.
subscribe to HBO Max and see it that way.
Exactly.
Highly would
HBO
recommend.
Max sponsor us. Woo. We got you.
I wish. I don't even need to be paid by them necessarily. Just give me a free subscription.
Yeah.
And I will.
Yes.
I will
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I think that's everything I have.
That's everything I have.
So you know, I'm Gino. You're a weeb.
Wait, a weeb? You're a weeb?
A weeb motherfucker, as they say.
A weeb motherfucker.
And
I'm Nikita. Your comic book high horse dorkhead.
Cinema nerd.
Cinema nerd, movie reviewer, top tier, air cut, restore the Snyderverse fanboy.
I love A24, baby.
Hey, and we're your resident nerds.
Thanks for watching.
It's the lag.
I know. I can't.